Under the soft drizzle of rain, Ethan Ward walked through the narrow streets of New Seattle. The lights of the city were dim and tired, flickering above broken signs and silent machines. He was a simple man, a mechanic who worked long hours fixing things no one else cared about anymore. His small workshop sat at the edge of the scrapyard, filled with old parts and half-dead engines. Most nights he worked until the rain stopped or until sleep finally forced him to rest. But that night was different. That night his life changed forever. When Ethan stepped outside to lock his workshop door, he noticed something strange near the junk piles. There was a faint blue light flickering in the distance, almost like a spark caught between two metal sheets. At first, he thought it was just an energy leak from one of the old machines, but then he heard a sound. A quiet, weak gasp. He frowned and walked closer, his boots crunching over wet gravel. The sound came again, this time sharper, like someone in pain. He knelt beside the source of the light and moved aside a piece of scrap metal. His heart froze. Lying there, half buried in mud, was a figure unlike any human he had ever seen. The body was thin and covered in torn fabric, its skin pale with a faint silver glow. The face was smooth, its eyes closed, and faint symbols ran along its neck like glowing veins. It was an alien, something Ethan had only ever seen in government broadcasts or old war footage. Ethan felt a wave of fear. The city guards would pay a reward for reporting any alien survivors, especially after the wars. Most people would have walked away. But as the creature stirred weakly, its hand twitching against the ground, something inside him stopped him from leaving. It was shivering, cold and clearly dying. He pulled off his jacket and covered the creature's shoulders. It flinched but did not resist. Then it opened its eyes. The eyes were bright silver, deep and calm, filled with confusion and pain. Ethan could not move. The creature stared at him for a long second before a voice echoed in his mind, soft and fragile. "Please, help me." Ethan stepped back, breath unsteady. The voice was not spoken aloud, it was inside his head. He looked around. Patrol drones sometimes scanned this area, and if they detected alien life, they would shoot on sight. He couldn't just leave it there. Against all reason, he bent down, lifted the alien into his arms, and carried it inside his workshop. The alien was lighter than it looked. It trembled against him, whispering something in a strange language he couldn't understand. When he set it down on a cot, the markings on its skin flickered softly like tiny waves of light. Ethan wrapped a blanket over it and checked the wounds. There were burns along its side and deep scratches, but no bleeding. Whatever its body was made of, it was not entirely flesh. He stayed awake for hours, cleaning its wounds and checking its breathing. The rain stopped and silence filled the workshop. Ethan sat by the workbench, his mind full of questions. He had just broken the law by helping an alien, and if anyone found out, he could be sent to prison, but he couldn't bring himself to regret it. When morning came, sunlight slipped through the cracks in the window. Ethan turned to check on the creature and saw its eyes open again. It sat up slowly, still clutching the jacket he had given it. For a moment, they just looked at each other. "You understand me?" Ethan asked quietly. The alien nodded weakly. Its voice came in real sound now, soft and careful. "I learned from your broadcasts. Your world speaks much through the air." Ethan blinked. "You mean radio signals?" "Yes," it said. "I listened. I tried to speak your tongue." Ethan smiled a little, unsure if he should be impressed or terrified. "You're doing fine." The alien tilted its head. "You are Ethan Ward," he frowned. "How do you know my name?" "I saw it on your machines," it said, lowering its eyes. "Forgive me. I did not mean to intrude." Ethan waved it off. "It's fine. You're lucky I didn't call the patrol." The alien's silver eyes lifted again, puzzled. "Why did you not?" Ethan thought for a long moment before answering. "Because you looked like you needed help. That's all." The alien stared at him with something like wonder. It held the jacket closer to its chest. "Your kind is not known for mercy. Maybe you've met the wrong kind," Ethan said with a half smile. "You got a name?" "Kale," the alien said. "I was a navigator of the Terran fleet. My ship was destroyed." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then you're far from home." Kyle's eyes dimmed. "Yes, I thought I would die here. But you gave me warmth. You gave me life." "It's just a shirt," Ethan said, a little embarrassed. "Don't make it sound like a big thing." But Kale shook his head gently. "On my world, a gift of cloth means something sacred. It means one has shared part of his soul. It cannot be repaid, Ethan laughed softly. Well, I guess I'm stuck with you then. Cale didn't laugh. He looked serious, almost solemn. In our law, such an act binds two lives. You gave freely, and so our fates are joined. Ethan raised a brow. That's a bit much for a jacket. You may not believe, Cale said quietly, but the bond is real. You will see. The day passed slowly. Ethan worked on a broken generator while Cale watched, curious. After a while, Cale stood and offered to help. His hands moved with strange precision. When he touched the wires, a faint glow ran through the circuits and the generator came alive again. Ethan stared in disbelief. How did you do that? He asked. Kyle smiled faintly. Your machines speak simply. I listen, Ethan shook his head. You're full of surprises. Cale's expression softened. And you are full of kindness. That evening, Ethan shared what little food he had. Cale tasted it carefully, studying every bite as though it were something precious. When the lights dimmed, he sat quietly near the window, staring at the stars. Ethan watched him, still unsure what to make of the strange guest who had appeared out of nowhere. Before sleep took him, Ethan heard Cale whisper something under his breath, words in his own language that sounded almost like a prayer. The markings on his skin glowed faintly brighter for a moment, then faded. Ethan didn't understand what it meant, but he felt something in the air, something calm and powerful, like the quiet after a storm. In the middle of the night, Kyle stood and pressed his palm against the glass. Outside, the city was silent, its towers lost in fog. He whispered into the darkness, signal sent, det marked. The air around him shimmered faintly, and a ripple of light flashed across the sky, too faint for any human eye to see. Far beyond Earth's orbit, among the hidden corners of the galaxy, a beacon answered. Massive ships stirred from their long silence, reacting to the ancient call of their heir. The message was simple and final. The one whose shared soul is under our protection. By dawn, the cot was empty. Cale was gone. The only thing left behind was Ethan's shirt, neatly folded on the bed. He stood there for a long time, confused and strangely sad. He had no idea that by offering a simple act of kindness, he had changed the course of his life. Somewhere in the stars, powerful beings now spoke his name with reverence. To them, he was not just a human mechanic. He was the one who shared his spirit with their lost prince. And from that day forward, Ethan's quiet life would never be the same. 2 days passed, and Ethan Ward tried to return to his normal routine. The workshop smelled of oil and metal, the hum of half-fixed machines filling the quiet. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop thinking about the alien. Cale had vanished without a sound, leaving only that folded shirt on the cot. Ethan picked it up every morning and stared at it for a long time, wondering if Cale was even alive. He had done what he thought was right, helped someone in need. And yet a strange uneasiness lingered in his chest. On the third night, something odd began to happen. The lights in the workshop flickered for a second, and the air felt thicker, charged with a faint vibration. Ethan stood still, frowning, thinking it was a power surge. But then his radio, which had been broken for months, suddenly came alive. It didn't play music or voices, just a steady tone that rose and fell like a heartbeat. He adjusted the dial, but no matter what he did, the sound stayed the same. It almost felt like it was calling him. He stepped outside. The sky was unusually bright, filled with stars that seemed closer than usual. Then for just a moment, one of those stars moved. It wasn't an illusion. It drifted across the sky like a falling ember, growing larger until it split into 3 smaller lights. Ethan squinted, his heart beating faster. Those weren't stars, they were ships. Moments later, the air trembled. A gust of wind rushed across the scrapyard as something vast descended silently behind the old hills. Ethan felt the ground shake, and an instinct told him to hide. But curiosity pushed him forward. He climbed onto a pile of scrap metal and looked toward the horizon. There, in the distance, stood 3 shapes, sleek, silver, and alive with light. Alien ships hovering just above the ground. For a long time, Ethan couldn't move. Then one of the ships opened a hatch, and a beam of blue light scanned the ground, sweeping toward his direction. He froze, it passed over him and stopped. The beam tightened, focusing directly on him. He felt a soft pull, not physical but inside his chest, like something invisible had just recognized him. The next second, he heard a calm voice in his head. Human Ethan Ward. Do not be afraid, his knees nearly gave out. The voice was not Cale's, but it carried the same echo, the same strange calm. Who are you? He whispered. "We are the Terran Ascendants," the voice said gently. "You gave your spirit to our prince. By our law, you are under our protection." Ethan blinked, trying to understand. "Prince Kale? He was your prince?" "Yes," the voice replied. "Heir to the House of Valen. Your act of compassion awakened an ancient bond. His signal reached us. Now we come to fulfill the vow." The beam of light dimmed and the air shimmered. A figure appeared a few steps away from him. Tall, cloaked in silver armor that reflected the moonlight. Its eyes glowed faintly. Ethan stumbled back, but the figure raised a hand in peace. "You are safe," the alien said, its voice clear and calm. "Prince Kale speaks highly of you." Ethan's mouth went dry. "He's alive?" The alien nodded. "Yes, he recovers aboard our flagship, but he insisted we come for you." "For me?" Ethan repeated, confused. "Why?" The alien's silver eyes softened. "Because you are now part of our royal bond. The gesture of giving cloth was sacred among our kind. It means you are recognized as one bound by spirit to the royal bloodline. You saved the heir, and in doing so you became family by law." Ethan stared blankly, struggling to breathe. "Family?" he said weakly. "I just gave him a shirt." The alien almost smiled. "And that single act changed the path of two worlds." Before Ethan could say anything more, a transport craft descended behind the armored alien, its smooth surface shining with soft light. The hatch opened, revealing a figure standing within. It was Kale. He looked stronger now, his silver markings glowing with energy. He smiled when he saw Ethan, a genuine warmth in his eyes. "Ethan Ward," he said softly. "You kept your promise. You gave kindness where none was expected." Ethan shook his head, speechless. "I didn't expect to see you again." Kale stepped closer. "You shouldn't have risked your life for me. But because you did, you've become part of something greater." "I don't understand any of this," Ethan said quietly. "I just wanted to help someone." "That is exactly why it matters," Kale said. "When one gives without expecting return, fate listens." The other alien stood at a respectful distance, watching in silence. Kale reached out and placed his hand gently over Ethan's shoulder. The markings on his skin pulsed faintly, and a warmth spread through Ethan's body. For a moment he saw flashes, vast cities under alien skies, ships sailing through golden clouds, and an ocean of stars that seemed to breathe. Kale's voice echoed softly in his mind. "You are marked by the Valen line now. Our fleets will know your name. Our worlds will honor your spirit." Ethan blinked as the vision faded. "Kale, I don't want honor. I just want to live a quiet life." Kale smiled faintly. "Sometimes the quietest hearts change the loudest destinies." Before Ethan could answer, the air trembled again. A sudden sharp sound split the night, the deep thundering roar of human patrol ships. A bright red flare shot across the sky. The Earth Defense Force had noticed the alien arrival. Kale turned, eyes narrowing. "They followed our entry trail." "We must leave." Ethan's pulse raced. "You mean you're leaving without me?" Kale hesitated. "You are one of us now, but this world may not understand. They will call you a traitor if they see you with me." "I've already broken their laws by helping you," Ethan said bitterly. "Maybe it's too late for that." Kyle looked into his eyes, torn between duty and friendship. "If you come, you leave behind everything. Earth, your life, your name." Ethan looked toward the city where alarms began to echo faintly in the distance. He had no family left, no one waiting for him. The life he led had been quiet but lonely. And now somehow the stars themselves seemed to be calling his name. He turned back to Kyle. "Then let's go." Kyle nodded once, solemnly. "So be it." The alien guard extended a hand toward Ethan. Blue light surrounded him, and for a second he felt weightless. The scrapyard, the city, the entire world below began to fade as the ship lifted him into its hold. The noise of the human patrols grew distant. Inside, the ship was silent and beautiful, made of smooth metal that glowed softly from within. Strange symbols floated along the walls, pulsing like gentle heartbeats. Kale stood beside him, watching the earth shrink through the window. "You may not see your world again for some time," Kale said quietly. Ethan stared at the fading blue planet. "Maybe that's for the best." Kale tilted his head. "You have no regret?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Regret comes from doing nothing. I did something." Kyle looked at him with admiration. "Then you understand what few ever do. That one simple act can move stars." As the ship left the atmosphere, the stars opened like a sea before them. Dozens of other ships joined. their silver hulls gleaming in formation. Ethan felt the ship tremble as it accelerated, and for a moment, he was sure his heart stopped. Kale touched a console, and a small holographic display appeared, showing an image of a great hall made of crystal and light. "That is our home," he said softly. "The citadel of Valen. It has waited centuries for its heir to return, and now because of you it will rise again." Ethan stared in wonder. "You're serious?" "My kindness brought your empire back?" Kale's eyes shone. Hope can be buried for centuries, but even a single spark, a single shirt given in kindness can make it burn again. Ethan leaned against the window, watching the stars flow past. The fear that had once filled him was gone now, replaced by something else, a calm certainty that he was exactly where he needed to be. Kyle turned to him, his expression thoughtful. "You may not know it yet, Ethan Ward, but your name will be remembered among the Terran as the one who restored the line of Valen. My people will speak it with respect for generations." Ethan chuckled softly. "Let's hope they spell it right." Kale smiled, a sound like quiet laughter escaping him. The moment felt strangely human, two beings from different worlds sharing something simple. A bond born not from war, not from fear, but from kindness. Outside, the ships entered faster than light travel. The stars stretched into ribbons of color. Earth was just a pale memory now, but Ethan didn't look back. Somewhere ahead, an entire civilization waited for the human who had given a shirt to a stranger. And in the silence of the stars, his fate had only just begun. The alien fleet carried Ethan Ward far across the stars, past glowing nebulas and dark clouds that hid entire worlds. Inside the ship, time felt different. Each day passed like a dream. Ethan watched the stars stretch and bend beyond the window, while Kale guided him through the strange corridors of light and sound. The ship was alive in ways he couldn't understand. It breathed, hummed, and responded to thought. When the journey ended, the darkness outside turned to a soft golden hue. Kale stood beside him as the massive ship descended through a glowing sky. Below them spread a world of silver oceans and floating cities. Towers rose like glass mountains, connected by bridges of light. Ethan pressed his hand against the window, speechless. "This is Valen," Kale said quietly. "My home. And now, yours as well." The ship landed smoothly on a long platform that shimmered like crystal. A group of aliens waited below, all dressed in elegant robes that seemed to flow like liquid metal. When Ethan stepped out, they bowed slightly toward Kale, then turned their curious eyes toward the human. "He is the one?" asked a tall alien with deep blue skin and glowing white eyes. Kale nodded. "Yes, the human who saved me." The others murmured softly among themselves. Ethan felt uneasy, as if every eye saw straight through him. He looked at Kale helplessly, and Kale gave a small nod of reassurance. "You are under my protection," Kale whispered. "No harm will come to you here." They led Ethan through grand halls filled with soft light and strange music that seemed to come from the air itself. At the center stood a great chamber surrounded by columns that glowed like the moon. In its center was a throne made of pure energy, pulsing with faint symbols. Kale walked forward and knelt before it. The light from the throne dimmed and a calm voice filled the room. "You have returned, Kale Valen." Ethan turned and saw a tall woman step out of the light. Her presence made even Kale bow deeper. Her eyes were like molten silver, her voice calm yet powerful. "Mother," Kyle said softly, "I have come home." The woman's gaze moved to Ethan. Her expression softened, though curiosity lingered in her eyes. "And you bring with you a human," she said slowly. "One marked by the spirit bond." Kale stood. "He saved me when all others turned away. Without him, I would not stand here." The Queen studied Ethan for a long moment. "Few among your kind would act so selflessly. You gave without knowing, and yet your gift has awakened the old vow." Ethan tried to speak, but his throat felt dry. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble," he managed to say. "I just did what anyone would do." The Queen smiled faintly. "Few would have done what you did. On Valen, such acts are written into our destiny. You are now bound by sacred law to our house. The line of Valen owes you allegiance." Ethan blinked, unsure how to react. "Allegiance?" he said quietly. Kale smiled at him. "It means they'll protect you as one of their own." The Queen stepped forward. "And not just protection. You are to be honored. The bond between our bloodline and yours cannot be broken. As long as the stars burn, your name will be remembered. Ethan felt overwhelmed. He was just a mechanic from New Seattle, not a hero. He didn't want honor or fame. He only wanted peace. But standing there under the gaze of beings who ruled worlds, he realized there was no going back. Kel touched his shoulder. There will be a ceremony, he said gently. To seal the bond. The Queen nodded. Prepare him. The bond must be witnessed by the council. They led Ethan to a chamber filled with glowing water that floated above the floor. Strange patterns shimmered across the walls. Cale explained that it was a cleansing ritual, something symbolic. Ethan placed his hands in the light water, and it wrapped around his arms like silk. It didn't feel wet, more like warmth spreading through his skin. When he looked down, he saw faint silver lines appear across his forearms similar to Cale's markings. He stared in shock. What's happening to me? Cale smiled softly. The bond marks you as family. It's not dangerous. The lines will fade in time, but their meaning never will. That evening, the entire city gathered in the Great Hall of Stars, a vast dome with windows that opened to the sky. The floor reflected the heavens like a mirror. Ethan stood beside Cale as the Queen raised her hands. Let it be known, she said, her voice echoing through the chamber, that the human Ethan Ward of Earth has shown the true strength of spirit. By giving freely, he has restored the bond between our people and reminded us what honor means. The crowd bowed their heads, and a low hum filled the room. The sound grew into a soft harmony that surrounded Ethan like a living song. The markings on his arms glowed brighter, pulsing with rhythm. Cale placed his hand over Ethan's chest. By this vow, Cale said, you are one of us. My brother in fate, my kin by spirit. Ethan felt a wave of warmth flood through him. For a brief second, he could see their memories. Worlds he had never visited, stars he had never named, faces that smiled with hope. It was as if 1,000 stories whispered into his heart at once. When the light faded, the crowd cheered softly. The Queen approached and handed Ethan a small pendant shaped like a teardrop. Inside it shimmered a tiny blue flame. This is the mark of the bond, she said. It will protect you wherever you go. No one who bears it can be harmed by those of our blood. Ethan took it carefully, still unsure what to say. Thank you, he whispered. The Queen smiled. You remind us that kindness is the rarest power in the universe. After the ceremony, Cale led Ethan outside onto a balcony overlooking the glowing city. The twin moons rose high above, bathing everything in silver light. It feels strange, Ethan said quietly, being treated like I did something great. You did, Cale replied. When the universe forgets compassion, even a single act can change everything. Ethan looked at the city below. What happens now? Cale turned toward him. Now you learn what it means to be part of Valen. There are those who will not welcome you. Some see humans as violent or small-minded, but others will see what I see, a soul stronger than fear. Ethan smiled faintly. I'm no hero, Kyle. Kyle shook his head. You are something rarer. You are good. Before Ethan could answer, a distant sound broke the calm. From far below, across the horizon, bright lights flashed in the dark sky. Ships, many of them, approached fast. Cale's eyes narrowed. That can't be right, he muttered. Who are they? Ethan asked. Cale's voice was low. Not allies. Not friends. Sirens echoed through the city. The night that had been peaceful moments ago now filled with tension. Cale touched the communicator on his wrist. Prepare defense formations. No one fires until we confirm intent. He turned to Ethan. Stay close to me. Whatever happens, do not remove the pendant. Ethan's heart pounded. Is this about me? Cale's expression darkened. Perhaps. The galaxy listens when the house of Valen rises again. Not all wish for its return. He looked up at the growing fleet above them. The ships were dark and angular, marked with red light. They moved like predators closing in. The calm of the ceremony was gone, replaced by a silence heavy with danger. Ethan stood beside Cale, clutching the pendant tightly as the first enemy ship broke through the clouds. Cale's voice was quiet, but steady. The kindness that saved me may now have to save us all. And as the sky filled with fire, Ethan understood that his simple act of mercy had started something far greater than he could ever imagine. The sky above Valen burned with color as alien ships descended through the clouds. Red beams of energy crossed the horizon, lighting the silver towers of the capital. Ethan Ward stood beside Cale on the balcony, the pendant glowing faintly against his chest. Below them, the peaceful city turned into organized chaos. Citizens hurried into shelters made of shimmering light, and fleets of Valen ships rose into the air like silver birds ready for war. Kyle's expression was calm, but his voice was sharp. They move faster than expected. The enemy calls themselves the Dominion. They ruled when my house fell. They will not let me return without a fight. Ethan watched the sky, fear rising in his chest. They came because of you? Because of us, Kyle said. When I called for the bond, the Dominion felt it. The signal told them the House of Valen lives again. Ethan looked down at the pendant. Then this thing you gave me? It means I'm part of your family now, right? Kale nodded. And as family, they will see you as a threat. The sound of thunder rolled through the city as the first explosion hit one of the distant towers. Kale turned quickly. Come, the Queen is in the Citadel. She will not leave her post. We must reach her. Ethan followed him through the shining corridors, his heart pounding. Guards in silver armor ran past them, shouting orders. The air hummed with energy. Every wall seemed alive, responding to the growing danger. Kale placed his hand on a control panel, and the walls opened to reveal a flight platform. A small craft waited there, sleek and glowing. Ethan hesitated. I don't even know how to fly that thing. Kyle smiled faintly. You won't have to. Hold on. They climbed aboard, and the craft lifted into the air. From above, Ethan saw the full scale of the invasion. Dozens of dark ships surrounded the planet, their edges lined with crimson light. The Valen defense fleet rose to meet them, silver against red. The two sides clashed in silent bursts of energy, the light of battle spreading across the sky like falling stars. Kale guided the ship through the chaos. Our shields won't hold long, he said. We need to reach the Citadel's heart before they land troops. Ethan gripped the seat tightly. What can I even do? I'm just a mechanic, Kale's voice softened. Mechanics keep worlds running. Never doubt the strength of creation. The ship swerved suddenly as a beam of red energy sliced through the air. Kale moved fast, his hands glowing as he manipulated the controls without touching them. The ship rolled, and Ethan felt weightless for a second. He looked through the window and saw a massive enemy cruiser break apart in a burst of blue light. Valen ships moved like dancers, silent and precise, protecting the city below. When they reached the Citadel, the central tower was already under siege. Kale landed on a high terrace, and both of them jumped out. The Queen stood near the entrance, calm and commanding, surrounded by energy shields. Her silver eyes glowed fiercely. Kale, she said, her voice strong. They have breached the outer rings. The Dominion's High Commander demands your surrender. I will not surrender, Kale said. Their time is over. The Queen's gaze shifted to Ethan. The bond must be protected at all costs. If they capture him, they will break the vow and destroy us. Ethan's heart skipped. Wait, me? Why? Kale answered quickly. Because your bond connects our spirit line. They cannot destroy my house as long as you live. Before Ethan could respond, a shockwave shook the Citadel. The walls flickered and parts of the ceiling cracked. Soldiers rushed to form a line. Kale raised his hand and light formed around his arm like armor. He turned to Ethan. Stay behind me, no matter what happens. The first wave of Dominion troops appeared through a burst of red smoke. They were tall and armored in black steel, eyes glowing like coals. They moved with terrifying precision. Kale stepped forward, his markings blazing. He thrust his hand forward, and a surge of blue light rippled across the hall, sending several of the attackers flying back. Ethan ducked behind a pillar as energy bolts flew past. The pendant on his chest glowed brighter with each blast, pulsing in rhythm with Kale's power. Without thinking, Ethan held it tightly. Suddenly, his surroundings slowed. He could see every spark, every flicker of light in the air. The pendant vibrated, and when he looked up, Kale was staring at him in shock. Ethan, Kale shouted. The bond, it's awakening through you. Ethan felt heat spread through his veins. His hands began to glow, faint at first, then stronger. He raised them instinctively as another bolt came flying his way. It hit an invisible shield around him and scattered into harmless sparks. I don't know what I'm doing, Ethan shouted. Kale smiled through the chaos. Then you're already learning. The Dominion forces pressed forward. Kale fought with silent fury, every motion controlled and graceful. Ethan stayed close, helping where he could. When Kale fell back, Ethan reached for the machines embedded in the walls. Consoles, energy nodes, broken drones. His old mechanic instincts took over. With a few fast movements, he rerouted power to the defense grid. Lights flared back to life across the Citadel, and protective barriers reactivated. Cale glanced at him, impressed. You just turned the tide. Ethan gave a shaky smile. Guess fixing things still counts for something. The Queen raised her hand and a column of silver light erupted from the floor, striking the air above them. The Dominion ships paused mid-assault. A voice echoed across the sky, calm but commanding. Enough, the attackers froze. Then a figure stepped forward through the smoke. The Dominion commander. His armor was black as night, his voice sharp as a blade. So this is the human who carries your fate, Cale Valen, he said coldly. You built your house on weakness. Cale stood tall. Compassion is not weakness. Then let your compassion destroy you, the commander sneered. He raised his weapon, aiming straight at Ethan. Ethan tensed, but before the beam could fire, Cale moved faster than sight. He blocked the blast with his body. The room filled with light, and Kyle fell to his knees, the markings on his skin dimming. Kyle, Ethan shouted, running to him. Cale smiled weakly. The bond protects you. It's enough. The Queen's voice trembled slightly, though her face remained calm. No, it is not enough. Ethan felt something burning inside him. The pendant blazed with light so bright it filled the entire hall. Cale looked up in wonder. Ethan, you're carrying the bond's full strength now. Ethan stood, his fear gone. The light spread from his body to the walls, through the floor, up into the sky. The entire citadel glowed. Outside, the Valen ships pulsed with the same light. The Dominion fleet faltered. The energy of one simple act, the kindness of a human, now powered an entire civilization. Ethan raised his hand, and the light surged outward. The Dominion ships cracked and broke apart, their weapons disarmed. The commander staggered back, shouting, but the light swallowed him too, dissolving the darkness he carried. Then, silence. The city glowed softly under the night sky once more. The people of Valen looked up and saw their ships return to peaceful formation. The war was over before it had truly begun. Cale stood slowly, the color returning to his face. He smiled at Ethan with quiet pride. You did it. Ethan shook his head, still in disbelief. No, we did it. The Queen approached, her eyes warm with gratitude. You reminded us of something we had forgotten, that mercy can be stronger than armies. Ethan looked down at the pendant, still glowing faintly. I didn't mean to change anything. I just wanted to help. Kyle placed a hand on his shoulder. And that is exactly why you changed everything. In the days that followed, Valen rebuilt what little was damaged. The people celebrated not with noise, but with quiet respect. They placed Ethan's name in their archives beside their greatest heroes. Yet Ethan remained the same man who had once run a lonely workshop in a rainy human city. He preferred to spend his time fixing things, helping those around him, teaching the young engineers of Valen how to build machines that served, not destroyed. Sometimes at night he stood by the balcony, looking up at the twin moons. Cale often joined him there. They rarely spoke. They didn't need to. Between them was the unspoken understanding that one small act of kindness had changed the course of stars. And though Ethan never returned to Earth, stories of the human who gave a shirt and saved a world spread through the galaxy. It became more than a tale. It became a reminder that compassion could reach across any distance, bridge any difference, and heal what even time could not. In the silent light of Valen's sky, Ethan smiled. He hadn't set out to be a hero. He had only offered warmth to someone cold, but in doing so he had given life to hope itself.